Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Tiger Mining Report recap podcast here for week number 8 or 9, depending on how you look at it. Well, week 9 for Toledo, week 8 for everybody else. I am Rogelio Castillo. Alongside me is Chris Brown, who is in Pittsburgh currently, as he's on the road. The show has hit the road. This is the first time that Chris has been on the road doing the show. I've done the show in, I think, Seattle and somewhere else.
You did it from Lakeland once. I know
Yeah,
that.
that's right. I
Well,
did.
that may have been the other show, but yeah, I'm in a hotel room in Pittsburgh. I don't have my normal audio set up, so if it sounds different, I apologize. But got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. By the way, Brandon will not be with us this evening as he's with his family, and wanted to say Happy Memorial Day and thank you for all who have served our country. And the Tigers did a really nice today thing, did a moment of silence for that, and I thought that was pretty cool. And some other teams, minor leaguers, Erie, Toledo, a couple other affiliates did something yesterday because they were off today, so it was just cool to see. And but on the heel, I mean, yesterday we'll talk about Tarik Skubal start the Maddox he pulled off, which is he pulled the best Maddox of all time, most strikeouts in a Maddox start. So for those who are not familiar with the Maddox start, it is a complete game shutout under 100 pitches. And he became the second Tiger in the last year to do so. Kyler Montero was the last one to do it, and he had a good start too. We'll get to that as well. Tigers take the first game against the San Francisco Giants, winning 3-1. Yeah, and then Isaac Pacheco had a grand slam to end the game yesterday. It was a good call by Nate Wangler, and it was just it was an exciting weekend across the minor league system as Toledo, Erie, and West Michigan. Both, I think all three went 5-1. I think no, not West Michigan. I'm sorry, not West Michigan. I know that
West Michigan went 4-2,
four and
but
two.
yeah, Lakeland went 5-1. Erie went 5-1, and still isn't tied for first place because Akron is also a machine. It's kind of wild to be
Yeah,
30 and 15 and tied for first place.
yeah. Akron's a bunch of assholes. They will not lose. It's a Cleveland system that just will not quit. And so Cleveland took 3 out of 4 from the Tigers, but based off the game on Sunday, doesn't really matter. I mean, does it matter? Yes and no. But I did like what I was down on the field on Sunday, and rather it was just one of those things where a reporter asked Skubal if it meant more, and he's like, no, I have a lot of respect for those guys. And it was kind of a revenge thing for him, and it was kind of a weird bait question, but it was the end result. They won the game. He went out there, and he wasn't even aware of the scoop. I played the audio for you, Chris, when I sent it
Yeah.
over, and it was funny. He even know what a Maddox was, and so either way, it was a fun start to watch, fun start to witness. I noticed it after the second inning when you see Jose Ramirez kind of look lost to the play. I mean, he ended up getting a hit and extending his hitting streak to 18 games because it's Jose Ramirez. I mean, the lineup was not lacking Stephen Kwan, but still, it was a dominant. It was a start where I think Skubal needed that start. The last couple starts, he's been kind of, I don't want to say on the ropes, but
Yeah, I mean, I think was the last one was who were they playing where he left and then and Holton immediately gave up. Like everything was going great, and then gave up a couple runs there in his final inning, and a couple more came in after he left the game.
was it Toronto or no?
And then maybe, and then before that it was the Red Sox, I want to say, but yeah, I don't know. There was a lot of things going on in that series. I think the Tigers were kind of primed for something like that, just based on just been playing a lot of games, and sometimes teams have their ups and downs during the season just based on the schedule, and losing Olson, losing Mize, they're kind of scrambling a little bit, and you saw Hinch do some things that he doesn't normally do, just based on pinch hitting and pitchers, and they just didn't have a whole lot of options, and what you saw was, and it's kind of what we saw against the Dodgers in the very first series of the year, right? The Tigers just couldn't get hits with men in scoring position those first 3 games. Part of that is credit to Cleveland. And then Cleveland has an excellent bullpen. Their bullpen is one of the best in baseball, and that's certainly a strength over the Tigers. And when you're not cashing in those early opportunities with men in scoring position against Cleveland starters, you're just not going to get that many opportunities against their relievers. And that's kind of what happened. But yeah, Skubal did the classic, ace thing, right? He was the stopper. He put the team on his back. He had arguably one of the most dominant pitching performances we've seen in all of baseball in many years. I think by one measure, it's the best Tigers start in close to 70 years, which is kind of hard to believe. But yeah, just a really special, incredible performance, and it's fun watching him pitch.
Yeah, and especially when he is dominating like that, where he is getting guys to just chase everything, he's working a slider, and just be able to get swing and miss stuff in the strike zone, and just the quick at bats early on was something indicating there's something special. The no hitter, I believe, it was broken up after the fifth. He made a joke about that too. It's like after the second, you start thinking about it a little bit.
It was the start of the sixth inning, and it's just such a classic Cleveland player to do something like that. Will Wilson, who was a first round pick of the Angels, I want to say 8 years ago, 7 years ago, something like that, and like immediately became apparent, like, oh, this guy's not a first rounder. Like, he's just not that good. And then he ended up in the San Francisco system. I remember watching him play with Richmond, and I thought, he wasn't doing very well in Double A, and I just kind of forgotten about him. And then boom, he shows up on Cleveland and breaks up a no hitter, a perfect game,
Yeah,
with a double. But it was, I think we talked about it before. Is like, for as good as Skubal is, I feel like he's never going to have a no hitter or a perfect game because he throws too many strikes. It's like he doesn't care really that much. It seems like I'm sure he'd love to have them, but he would rather throw strikes and not walk anybody. I guess there's a chance with that many strikes that he may throw a perfect game, but I don't know. I just feel like he just pounds the strike zone too much, and that's how you end up with arguably the greatest Maddox ever, right? Like,
yeah,
13 strikeouts, 94 pitches. Nobody's ever had more strikeouts in a Maddox. It's crazy. Just an awesome performance.
yeah. And here's the thing too about you mentioned the filling the strike zone too. It's against a team that is one of the top 5 teams in contact rate, and so that was something that I asked Hinch about too, because that makes it very uniquely special. Again, I know this didn't line up, didn't have Stephen Kwan in it, but there's one thing about Cleveland that stood out this series, and it's the same thing with the Giants. You're facing back-to-back teams, but that are really good bullpens. I mean, Cleveland has 3 guys that have a K per 9, just over 10, and they, it's a team where you have Kate Smith, but guess what? They also have Hunter Gaddis and Tim Herron's pretty good. Class A is still Class A. Maybe he's not the same Class A he was last year, but he's still really good. And so Cleveland can match up very well. And the one thing about Cleveland too that I gotta say is that they do have those kind of regular hitters that can just it's a death 1,000 cuts kind of thing. But it's true. It's really annoying. Matthew Broder in the house. Good to see you, sir. It's been a while. How you doing? But that's you look at that start against Casey Mize on Saturday. It's a prime example of that. A really good start by Mize, but again, Cleveland just comes at you in waves and does not. I made a comment about Ramirez's stats or something, and oh my, what are you doing? It's like, dude, respect the game. I mean, he is an amazing hitter, and it's
he's a future Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
He's one of the most I don't know, probably one of the 5-10 best players of the last decade plus, right? And it's annoying because he's on Cleveland and he's always destroyed the Tigers, but it's hard not to appreciate a guy who plays like that. Power, speed, third base, defense, great hitter from both sides of the plate. One of the best switch hitters of all time already, right? So, it's fun to beat him, but you also have to give him credit for being such a great player.
Yeah, and that's where, again, I just can't always be. We have to be objective about these things, and so. But there is one thing about today that stood out was Cannon Montero's start, his I believe it's his 4th career start. I said this earlier, where he has not allowed to run in 5 or more innings of work, and he was really doing when his curveball is working, and he can work on both sides to play with it. It's a very very effective pitch, and the bullpen, which. One thing about Skubal's start, that complete game gave the bullpen a much needed rest, and then it was allowed Hinch today to use the bullpen in a way that he could weaponize it really well. But Montero, again, someone suggested, like, well, is he going to be a guy who just goes up there and gives him 5 or 6 innings? That's all the Tigers need him to do. And I know he's pisses off a lot of people sometimes, but his slider, his fastball has been losing a little bit of velocity, but still, his secondary stuff today was really good.
it's never been a question of Montero's stuff. We've said that since he was in high A. Like the stuff has always been there. Sometimes it's better than others. We've seen him up to like 98 in the past. He's not throwing that hard right now. It's always about the location with him and the execution. And when he's locating to the edges, he's great. He's really good. Like you see, like you mentioned, he's a bunch of kind of scoreless outings. But so for whatever reason, at times his pitches just migrate toward the heart of the plate, and they become much less effective that way. And that may be something that's going to come with time. He may just be somebody who's always a little bit frustrating like that. But the potential's there. We know that they've always liked him. He's, yeah, I mean, he's been a really valuable kind of number 6 starter so far this year. Even if the ERA is just barely under 5, I think. But it's helpful to have a guy like that come in and shut down another team for 5 innings. That's great.
Yeah, the Giants are not. I mean, maybe like I think they're a team there's 3 or 4 gaps in the lineup, but still, the team. The Giants are 31-22. Well, actually today they're 31-23. They're performing better than I think people anticipated them to. So either way, Birdsong's the guy who also has some outside of his slider when it's not. I think his changeup is his best pitch, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
I was surprised he didn't use that more, but yeah, still the Giants are a very competitive team. The Tigers still have the best record in baseball, but I believe as
I
of
don't know.
now, right?
Did the Phillies lose today? I
Yeah,
didn't.
I'm about to. Yeah, I see that. Yeah,
Let's see, 35 and 20, 642. The Phillies technically have the better winning percentage by
okay,
600ths of a point or 6,000ths of a point. It's the best record in the American League.
there we
They
go.
continue to be, San Francisco's a really good team this year. Their offense isn't great, but the Tigers went out there and scratched out a 3-1 win. It's up until that Cleveland series, they just been this is what we've seen from them, right? When they need to score a ton of runs, they've done that. When they need to outpitch you, they've done that. So I don't know. It's just gonna like I feel like there's a lot of among the fan base they're kind of just waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? Like, oh, they're gonna go on like an 8-game losing streak or something like that. And I don't think this team's built that way. I think they're not going to continue winning at this pace. I don't think, but they're going to be competitive and pretty good all year. I think as long as they can stay relatively healthy.
Yeah, and there's I think with that too, there's a lot of people still freaking out about a whole lot of nothing. I mean, that's the one thing about this with social media. Sometimes it amplifies these things, and you're seeing things where people are just oh, dude, get off my team, and all these really weird takes and stuff like that. And look, he made a couple catches in Toronto that made a big difference in the series.
Yeah, he helped them. He won them a game basically. Like
Yeah,
if he doesn't make those catches, they don't win that game. And that's one of those things. Like AJ Hinch has talked about it before. Is like you remember Badu had won a walk off hit last year during that stretch down the end, and he said, these are guys that we want them to feel like they're part of this too, even if they're down in Toledo most of the time. We'll probably see Kreidler again at some point. Just Hinch wants them because they might need them, and Hinch believes in that and making sure all these guys feel like they're a part of it. And I have no problem with that. Like Badu, okay, we've seen he's not going to hit much, but he can help you out at times. He can, get a home run or an extra base hit every now and then. He's going to make some solid plays in the outfield. He might steal you a base. He does some things that are good. This is not the team that was out there 3-4 years ago where they needed him to play every day.
yeah,
He's a fourth, fifth outfielder now, and they're going to use him as such.
yeah. And I mean, problematic. That Badu, I think he is trying to swing for more power. I think that that there's something to be said about that. I could totally see what you're saying. Like at first, you look at some of his power numbers and you go, okay, that's cool, but you also need to hit for average too. And so I think that there's something to be said about that, and that's definitely worth more of an examination because when I did that article on him a couple of weeks ago, he is definitely exhibiting more power. Is he hitting for more average? No. So
And maybe that's what the team needs right now. They need a lefty guy who can come up and maybe hit you a home run. Like there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. He's at the mercy of the organization right now because he can't be a free agent yet. Um, so whatever they need him to do, he's going to try to do. And he's never been a great hitter for average. So just go out there and try to do damage when you get a chance.
yeah, exactly that. Connor, we'll get to your question in a second about Jason and Lee. But one thing I wanted to show today is this stat right here. Although I think the FCL Tigers played today, right? Did they?
They did. Yep.
And they won. Oh yeah, that's right. They kicked the Phillies' ass pretty
Yeah.
badly. So now this was as of, I posted this last night and it was on Reddit. So I just wanted to make sure that people knew that this was us that posted this. But so the Tigers now have a 159 and 98 record, and there's a stat with Toledo. We'll get to Toledo in a second, but here's the reason why this is such a big deal to me. You look at Toledo, and they were like you tweeted out a really good stat yesterday. I got comments on the Javier Baez column. We'll get to that in a second.
Nice.
We'll get that in a second. But I just want to point this out. If you look at across the board, Erie, West Michigan, and Erie both have the best run differential. Lakeland has been, even with their just a makeshift, the rotation's been not sexiest, but they just keep going out there and winning. This is right here. This stat right here, all the records to me is a big indication of how much the organization has changed right here. This organizational philosophy across the board, we have not seen. I mean, last year they had the best combined last year, but this early in the season, no. This is a little different to me, at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's largely a continuation. It's kind of like the big league level where the Tigers are playing the way they did the second half of last year. This is what we're seeing in the minors too. Is that whatever organizational philosophy that they've passed down to the system, it seems to be taking, right? Whatever they're doing is contributing to a lot of wins, and it's a good farm system with a lot of talent. We're redoing our top whatever prospects, and it feels a little light after maybe the top 8 to 10, but it's still a really damn good top 8 to 10. And there's a lot of depth there of guys that, some guys from that group are going to pop and be good players. And they have a lot of players like that. So, and there are a lot of good winning players too, who aren't going to make the big leagues, but they are contributing in a great way to these teams.
Yeah. And that's like, it's just a matter of having that mindset to it. But as far as before we get on the rest of the teams, I do want to talk about today's game, and we talked a little bit about the pitching performance of Montero. The offense came through, did what they had to do, but what we witnessed today was Phil Cuzzy being the Phil Cuzzy show. The Phil Cuzzy show. It just had like a very look when two players are holding you back on a umpire call. Like Baez is, yeah. I mean, it was not. It was one of those. I'm just gonna show you the call here in a second. But the fact that there's like some of the Giants fans were like, oh, that was it was clear to a strike. Yeah, no, it wasn't a strike. But we're gonna show it to you right now, and Phil Cuzzy was looking for. I think Phil Cuzzy was looking for an excuse to get just to piss off Baez. And Baez said afterwards, he's like, I'm not going to stand for that. And he's not going to talk to you like that. And here's the call. And, yep, see, right there.
And definitely throws him out a little too quick there. But you said, I guess you can't really argue. And because he's got a short fuse.
Well, you do know with him that he's just looking to do it. That's what he does.
Yeah.
And we'll take another look.
That was a terrible call. It was an absolute total crap call. And Phil Cousins was looking for something. I don't care what it was. It was a scuzzy call. I like what Bruce said here. Nicely said, Bruce. It was a very scuzzy call. I mean, if you got Hinch out there, somehow Hinch always avoids getting kicked out. I gotta give AJ Hinch has. I don't know if it's his Stanford education or whatever he has, but somehow he always avoids getting kicked out.
Yeah, he got there just a bit too late. We talk about it. I think AJ Hinch has a little bit of a control freak in him, and he doesn't really want to, be out of the game. He wants to be able to help his team win by being in the game. But yeah, I don't know. I really appreciated, Javi Baez. His quote after the game was like, "Yeah, he said everything and swearing, and they put it right there and on Twitter. It was great. He's like, like, I understand these guys are human. I told him that was a really bad call, and he told me to, like, get moving or whatever like that. And then so he was like, no, you don't talk to me like I'm an animal. And that's what led to and then, Javi, if you feel like you're being talked down to and it's in the heat of competition, it's really easy to kind of get super pissed off like that. I think it's happened to anybody who's played any kind of sports. And then afterward you go, I didn't. It's fine. But I don't know. This is the umpire thing. Like, if and when they move to any kind of automated strike zone or a challenge system, something like that, it's not going to happen anymore as long as they have challenges. But I don't know. It's fun in a win because you still have to yell at the ump. But everybody, and the proof is there, right, on the screen, all that. It was a really bad call, and he kicked it, and then he doubled down, kicked out one of Tigers' better players over the last month. But, they still won, so it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, Sam makes a good point. The thin skin of home plate umpires is quite bothersome. I don't want to go to robo umps, but I do wish to give him more take. No, I agree. And thank God it's, thankfully there's no Angel Hernandez or anything like that. But Phil Cuzzy, it's just, come on, dude. Like, it's the ump show. That's what you're doing today. That's fine. Actually, it's not fine at all. I don't know why I just said that, but it's the matter of, don't act like you're Baez did anything egregious. It was literally Baez goes, dude, it was a bad call. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, you know what? I'm looking for a reason. I'm looking for something to do. And the fact is, too, when you see Joey Cora and then Torres, like, going, like, they literally, like, had to restrain him like that. I mean, like, Baez is an emotional player, but he doesn't get that kind of angry unless you say, like, something, so. Mm-hmm. Jacob wants to know, any chance the MLB will do anything about it, or is just umps protected? I think it's gonna. They'll tuck it on the rug and keep going.
Yeah, they almost never do anything to, the umps have a union of their own, and there's like processes for that. MLB, I can't remember a time where Major League Baseball has really punished an umpire. If they do, it's kind of behind the scenes, and it's like, you don't get to work the All-Star game, or you're not going to be in the playoff crew or something like that. Nothing crazy is going to happen there. This is not like, who was it back in the day where Roberto Alomar spit on the guy?
Oh, when he was in Baltimore, right? When Alomar was in Baltimore, what was it? I can't remember who the ump was, though.
I feel like his name was John, but
it wasn't Country Joe West, was it?
No.
Was it John
Hirschbeck?
Hirschbeck, okay, yeah, something, yeah, okay. Sure, something. Yeah, that right there was like, dude, if anybody spits on me, man, sorry, that's just.
Yeah, that's like the usher at that Pittsburgh game we were watching.
Yeah, that guy had every right to whip him. You have every right to whip him with your belt. Yeah. What a jackass! That guy was such a jackass about it. But no, I mean, the Tigers won, and that's all that matters. And it was again a situation where I think he was just looking for something to do. John Olerud. Did he get? I don't. I'm always appreciative of a good John Olerud reference. The summer he almost had 400.
There's let's see. Did John Olerud and Roberto Alomar get in a fight? They would have been teammates.
Probably. Roberto Alomar, come to find out, is a big time asshole.
Yeah, wasn't
John
there?
John Deere. No, but I do like. It looked like Gleyber Torres did run like a Bill Lambier type pick on Baez, and just kind of like was not letting him go by, and so. But yeah, again, the situation is what it is, and so. But the Tigers move on, and they're rolling on, so that's fine. They got tomorrow. They have a night game tomorrow, and then they do have a day game before they hit the road. It was a joke. Oh, okay, John. Okay, all right. Thank you, Sam. For a second, I'm like, well, maybe you never know though. John Olerud he was a gentleman. Yes, he was a nice guy, but I was gonna say Roberto Alomar is also kind of an asshole. Maybe he found a way to piss off John Olerud.
Yeah, didn't we find out something recently about him that was not great in the last year or two?
Yeah, he was like, I think something sexually assaulty. Assaulty or something like that.
But then, anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. So, Yeah, so like I was saying, so as far as the rest of the what's going on tomorrow with the Tigers, like I said, it's going to be Flaherty against Webb tomorrow, and that's going to be at, I believe that's 6:40. Yeah, that's a 6:40 start. And on Wednesday, it'll be Job, and officially after that he'll be which is why we're updating our list. That's his last start, and now he will not be a prospect anymore. So, yeah, Alomar is technically banned from baseball. He is pretty much a creep. So, but the Tigers get a much-needed day off Thursday, and then they hit the road. They will start a 3-game series with the Kansas City Royals on Friday. So, it's already the beginning of June soon here on Sunday.
Big divisional series.
Big divisional series. The cliche as it sounds, heading into June, and then they have the White Sox, who are somewhat entertaining. I mean, if you're looking at a team I know the White Sox are a bad team, but they still have some pitching that's been raising some eyebrows a little bit.
Yeah, the kid they got from the Brewers as their Rule 5 pick has been excellent. He's another one of those guys like Birdsong today who developed that kick change, which is, like we talked about before, like poor Jeremy Bonderman lived in the wrong era where guys who can't throw the changeup, now all they have to do is throw like a funny little fastball where the ball tips off their finger and they've got a great changeup. But yeah, they're not nearly as bad as the White Sox were last year. They're still really bad, but they're not Colorado. So that's going to be, it'll be a tougher series than anybody wants to admit.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's going to be, like I said, I think it's going to be a pretty good series for the Tigers to test things out. But see here, sorry, I was just going through the questions we got. But also, by the way, if you are inclined, if you can, please donate to our GoFundMe. That funded our trip this week. I funded my one-night trip to Erie this week and Ashley's trip on Friday to Toledo. So all these things go back in our website costs. So there's a GoFundMe link on the show description. If you can PayPal us a few bucks, or there's always the super chat feature. Takes a while before that kicks in, but if you want to help us on it immediately, those are your options. Go ahead, Chris. What were you gonna say?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So as far as Nick Spillane here with this question, do you think Montero gets demoted once Reese Olson gets back? The team is 5-2 in his starts this year. Nick, Chris and I were talking about why the ring finger, and speaking of change, you put a lot of pressure on your ring finger when you throw your change. Although I'm using a example here, depending on how you throw your change up, a lot of pressure on the ring finger there. So, however, depending on how his ring finger feels, I mean, I still think that you still have to make a decision about the bullpen soon, because also at the same time, I mean, you have Hannafy, who's a sinker ball pitcher who gives you the option, but I still think the Tigers still need to get another swing and miss guy or anything. But Colin, no, Colin with some irresponsible speculation, but not to speculate anything, with the ring and pink finger lead directly to the UCL.
Just don't use it when you're throwing. Yeah, I don't know. Like he sounded like he was playing catch the other day.
Yeah,
I think he's okay. I think they're just they're comfortable with Montero, and they're not going to take any chances right now. This is kind of preventative maintenance during the season. We saw Riley Green and Zach McKinstry get the day off the other day. I think Mize threw like a 5-inning simulated game. Like he seems totally fine. I think Olsen will be back. They're just, they don't want something to get worse, right? If there's anything that feels funny, they're going to take, extra precaution. I think that, if and when those guys come back, they're fine with Montero being down in Toledo. And again, this is what I talked about earlier. Like AJ Hinch wants these players to know, and I think Scott Harris has the same philosophy, that just because you're in Toledo doesn't mean you're not part of this team. We need you down there so that you can come up here when basically we need you down there to be ready to come up here. And it'll probably happen a couple more times this year with Montero. The next time there's a doubleheader. But yeah, I don't know, we'll see. I'm assuming that Olsen's going to be okay, but you never know.
Yeah, from what little I don't mind my sausage like fingers, but if you're throwing it depends if you throw your circle, or I think there's a star changeup too. I think that's one example. Depending on how he throws it, that's going to cause that. So, but yeah. Either way, it is something to the Tigers are they recognize this is a long season, and I'm not really concerned if Montero can stick around, great. If you're looking at maybe Will Kill Hernandez as a possibility, I just wait a little bit on that. I would like to see the K per nine. I like to see the strikeout numbers get up a little bit before that. So
Yeah, that feels like an emergency situation, right? Like he's not on the 40 man. He's been pitching really well, but yeah, I don't think they need him until they need him. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly, and that's the case with. I think that's even the case for a guy like Enos and
Oh, he's on the IL now.
is he?
Yeah, he went on the IL today or yesterday.
Oh boy. Well, which explains. Well, we'll get to some concern. There's something I was actually talking to somebody with the Tigers about these indie signings, and they feel like they're a little thin right now, and that's why they've been going. And so, but that has been reflected in the last couple of weeks. They also signed an outfielder too, which we'll get to as well. A former U of M. He also played at North. I didn't know he played at Northwestern, by the way.
Yeah, I think he started at Northwestern and then moved to U of M.
Yeah. But without further ado, though, let's go into the Weber report, the breaking down the slideshow slideshow presentation, for lack of a better word. But it is, for both Chris and I working in marketing during our day job, so it is exactly that. It is kind of a slideshow, and you can always get these on if you're a paid member or a Patreon. You can get these afterwards, and we usually post them relatively quickly. But so let me put this up here. Oop, that's not what I wanted to do at all. As we're technically difficulties here. And yeah, so here we go with the Weber report. Again, Mud Hens pulled themselves over 500. Run differential is great, and Chris, read that tweet you posted out yesterday. That was a really good one. That was one of those things where, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think I said I don't have it exactly, but on April 20th, they were 5-16 and had been outscored like 127 to 86 or something like that. And they are now 27-24. And after winning, was it 8-0 yesterday? They now have a +5 run differential. So they've come all the way back and now in the positive. And it's just a really remarkable turnaround. We the first couple of weeks of this, we're like, geez, this is just dire. And they just flipped it. And now they're just like every other team in the system. They're really hard to play against. They keep battling back, and they've got a lot of talent there, and they're going to get more talent. We've already seen some of the guys go down, like Young's back down there now, and Workman's there, and Lee is heating up. Meadows is there right now. He won't be there for long, but we'll probably see Malloy back down there soon, and like we said, Montero. So they got a lot of legitimate MLB talent hanging out there in Toledo, and they're going to keep winning, I think.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with there was just funny how they were like, well, these guys are 4A players. Where else you can put them? I mean, if they can come up and when they can, and I know Winfield Perez has been off. Was kind of struggling a little bit since he's only been there a couple of games, but he's been striking out a lot. I think it was or maybe it was a little more than a couple of games, but
well, he was down in Lakeland. Like it was weird. They were in Toledo and then down in Lakeland and back to Toledo, and Vierling got off to a really hot start when he was rehabbing and with the Mud Hens, and then he kind of had a rough week where he struck out a lot. But they're just trying to get used to playing every day again, and I'm not too worried about that. I don't know if I'm not really sure where Winslow fits right now in terms of on the Tigers. Maybe they can bring him up for. It feels like he's going to be kind of like the offensive equivalent of Montero.
Yeah,
like they're going to bring him up when they need him when they're facing a bunch of teams that hit a lot of fly balls and facing a bunch of righties. But I think he's going to be back and forth between Toledo and Detroit a lot.
Alex Cobb, by the way, is still. Ops wants to know what's happened to Alex Cobb. He still hasn't pitched yet because he still has the hip issue, and they haven't given an update as of yet. I think he did a bullpen session, and then after that it was all pretty much MIA. So they haven't said anything since then.
Yeah, there was that talk of him that secretive live bullpen there at Comerica that caused some issues.
Oh yeah, that's
So
right.
basically, it sounded like he was pitching okay, but he just wasn't moving very well. And I don't know. I mean, it does feel like we might not even see him at all this year.
Yeah.
Um, but we'll see what happens. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna see him anytime soon or ever.
With Thomas Nito clearing waivers, will Steven Scott go back to the hot and ready list? Jake, that's a really good question. He might just decide to go walk away. Who knows at this point? But
Scott's playing mostly outfield now.
yeah, he's been playing first base too a little bit too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's good that the Nito cleared waivers. I'm surprised he did. I'm not gonna lie. As like
I
a
am
backup
too.
catcher.
I guess every team out there is happy with their backup catcher situation. But yeah, it's just kind of it was funny the other day. He wasn't playing and he got ejected. I was like, that's you gotta
Really,
like
what
that.
do you do? I
I don't
missed
know.
that.
He was just chirping from the dugout and got ejected. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty badass. But I mean, as far as like Jay Hen, so we did get a question earlier about Jay Hen. Is he because he doesn't have a position because he can hit, but doesn't in terms of like here's some is Jay Hen squeezed back to Toledo soon? He's getting much run. With Tigers, his lack of defensive versatility, I don't think his back can carry him. I think the organization still likes him quite a bit. And yeah, Connor, I'll get to your question here in a second about Lee with Young in a second, because that kind of leads into what we're doing, talk about Toledo right now. If Nick, I mean, as far as putting Winteal or Jay Hen, it depends on really. I mean, if he's a guy who can help another team as a utility player, like for Winteal, for example. Winteal, yes, he grew up or he in the farm system played the infield, but I don't think he's an infielder. I don't think he's an infielder anymore because just the yips and all those things. Unless he's been working on it secretly again, excuse me. I think that kind of hurts his versatility a little bit. If you're looking for a fourth outfielder, great. I mean, but then Biggio was just released by Kansas City, so a team might be interested in him. I know, the guy who was released by the Dodgers, he was just signed by the Angels.
Chris Taylor.
Yeah, Chris Taylor. So maybe a type like that could fit in there, but it really depends if the Tigers are going to trade for instead of trading for prospects, trade for a guy that they would do. I mean, it makes sense for those guys to be part of a deal, but is whether it depends on Jay Hen is a Harris guy. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think we mentioned this before too. It's he's still a young player, and it's just tough for young players to not play every day, right? Like he knows that he might get one or two at bats a game. He might get a start here and there, but he's not playing a ton, and it's hard to lock in. And I'm sure if he went back to Toledo, I'm sure after a while he'd be great and be ready to come back up again. It's tough when you're not used to sitting on the bench like that. And yeah, like it feels magnified when you come in, you get one at bat, and you don't come through. But we're talking like what was it, 8 games ago, 10 games ago when he got the game-winning hit against the Red Sox? Like it's everything we all forget very quickly about stuff, and so I don't know. He's going to go down when Meadows comes back, I'm pretty sure. But again, nobody stays healthy all year, and somebody else is going to get hurt, and he's going to be back up.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of like they had the additional depth to it. But for the answer to Connor's question is, do you think Young will be shocked when Lee's doing well? I don't. To me, I'm not trying to cop out on this answer, and I'm not. But it's also really, I think if Young feels like he has a better opportunity elsewhere, he might say something. He wasn't afraid to say something to Tony Paul when he was down in Toledo. But it really depends on what the market is for him. I mean, I think if the Tigers are going to trade a guy like Young, they're going to expect something back in return. I don't think that they're just going to get rid of him just to get rid of him. You know what I mean? It's not just.
Yeah, no, it would be great if he would come up to the majors and do something other than walk, right? Like, because that's kind of, if you're making a trade at the deadline for help, that's kind of a player that another team might like, right? He's basically plug and play big leaguer. And he's improved enough at third base where you can put him there. I still think he's probably best off at second base, but he did a lot of hard work and he's a solid third baseman now. he just needs to hit a little bit. And maybe it takes him time. Some guys it takes a while to figure it out, and a team like Miami or Colorado or whomever may be willing to give him 500, 600 bats or whatever, and wait for that to show up. But in that sense, I think he probably is an ideal trade chip. But he's not. I don't think you're going to get anything for him by himself. He needs to be part of a package, I think.
Yeah, I think that Nick's point, I think you're right. You would probably have to put him in a package to kind of sweeten the deal, if you will. But I don't know. I mean, the one thing that both Lee and him struggle with is hitting velocity right now. And so Chris, you brought that up earlier in Discord. Lee, correct, still struggles with 95 plus, correct?
Even less than that, but it's only four seamers. He crushes sinkers. It's really odd. He doesn't hit four seamers. He hits sinkers. He hits curveballs. He hits changeups. He hits sliders. He hits everything else pretty well. Just four seamers for whatever reason, and maybe he's just got to get his timing back. But yeah, like he has some issues there too that are not unlike Jace Young's, and we talked about it before. Like the big difference there is he's 22, and I think he has more raw power than Jace Young. Maybe not as much game power. I don't think his swing is as optimized to pull and to loft the ball. But I think we may see Lee later this year just because they have to add him to the 40-man anyway. And we know that they like him. But that's another guy that you could theoretically trade in a package, right? They're not hurting for second baseman, and he's really struggling at third base. We believe he has the tools to do that, but it's not looking great so far. I think he's got 8 errors, and I think 7 of them are at third. Maybe all of them are at third. It's just kind of rough over there. So
yeah, that's it is kind of that
drinking some water here.
Yeah, it's good. Somebody's asked me a question about a prospect or two. Another text threw me off there. But yeah, it is that ball that Lee smoked yesterday was an absolute 109. That was like what they call a piss missile. It's
he demolished that out to the street. That was fun.
Yeah, it was an absolute piss missile. And he pimped it too. He knew it too. Yeah, Seth Haberson, or the Rockies closer. I know that sounds like a simple thing, but the Rockies, the one thing is that I think what's going to happen is it's going to be a guy that no one might. If the Tigers don't do this eternally and try to fill the bullpen role eternally, here's another thing: go get another starter or two. Because that's not necessarily a bad thing either. Because I mean, we look at although Mark, I can't even say Nick.
Margashevas.
Margashevas. I don't know how you're trying to. Suddenly, he's been striking out guys. He's never been a strikeout pitcher, but some strange reason he's been striking out guys down in Toledo.
Yeah.
In a small sample size. But Dylan Smith, I did hear when I was down at Comerica that Dylan Smith is a guy the Tigers quite a bit. Could be a potential call up. And Matt Manning had a good stretch there, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on with him. Bailey Horn, who was off to a really good start, is on the IL. And Sawyer Gibson Long in his, I believe it was it Saturday or Friday? It was Saturday. Was it Saturday? Was it Saturday?
I think so, because it was the same day that Gouache pitched for Erie.
Okay, so what's that? Squash. Yeah, we'll get plenty to get to him too. But other than that, the offense this week was kind of they got it done though. But Ricky Velasco has looked pretty well in short bursts. He's at 8 strikeouts and 3 innings of work. So he's making the most of his opportunities, but that's actually I really like the name a lot. There, Colin suggested Ryan Zefferjan.
Oh, Zefferjan he's on the Angels, right?
Yeah,
lots of. I think he's got a lot of, or his ERA is pretty high right now, but it's kind of misleading. Yeah, I mean, one of the things is everybody's looking for relievers at the deadline. That's why we always talk about you end up getting. When you're selling relievers, you get a much better return than you would normally for any other player because there's a lot of competition. So the Tigers, it's not enough to just like, hey, we like Seth Halverson. You have to have the Rockies like your players that you're offering, right? Like, or they're going to get players they like more from somebody else. It's so you got to figure out that way. You do have to have backup plans, and like you said, you got to have guys on the inside. Dylan Smith is really, pushing it right now, and that's nice to see. We haven't heard a whole lot about Tyler Madison. It's been a while since he pitched. You know, um, and so he was a guy that I thought had a chance to pitch in the back end of a bullpen, and just gotta maybe he'll come back in a month or two. I don't know, but yeah, they're going to have some options internally, and then they are going to have to go out and get some interesting arms if they can.
Yeah, I mean, there's you have, and I do like what Nick said here. I mean, you have Alex Lang, you have Jose Urquidy, who's just now, I don't think he's throwing as of yet, but there's a possibility, and I still think that Matt Sillinger's a guy too as well. It's just because he's the way they can use him and maximize his curveball and fastball, and so I'm looking forward to what Colin's going to do, kind of like a breakdown of his here shortly. But let's go to Erie again. Thank you. I gotta before I go on, I want to say thanks to Greg. Oh, so he was okay. All right, cool. Jake, thank you very much here. Jake with the update here that Mattson was throwing live BP in Lakeland this week. So sweet, awesome. Thank you, Jake. Appreciate the information. It was one of those things that probably went under for radar. But yeah, I was in Erie. Want to give a thank you to Greg and Sam for having me on the broadcast from the second inning to the fourth inning. And that was really cool. It was a very some of the innings were it was good to be out there, and was able to talk to Max Anderson on Saturday. I got something set up with Roberto Campos too. I got some stuff from him, but I'm gonna do more of a formal interview later this week, as Max Anderson's on a 16-game hitting streak. He had the day off yesterday, but it was just hearing him talk about his defense a little bit, what he's been doing differently, and just kind of finding his position a little bit. So you can find that article over on TigersMLReports.com. But as far as the rest of Hartford is a team that is a terrible team. I'm sorry, the Rockies AA affiliate is not that good. I mean, they jumped all over Melton when I saw him on Friday, but Melton still looked really good, though. I mean, he had 8 strikeouts, was getting a lot of swings and misses, and a lot of the contact was kind of, it was just a lot of, they were like singles, just a lot of, I don't want to say, there was a couple bullets. I'm not saying they're not all, it wasn't, it was a start for him based off the fact that here he was just coming off the shin injury. He got hit in the shin. He left the game last Saturday in Richmond, and he got carted off. I mean, not carted off, but he was like he got helped off. But then I guess he said once he got on the bus, everything, he felt fine. And so, but yeah, Chris Myers is finding his groove a little bit, and Roberto Campos continues to hit. And again, the percentages always talk about how fly ball rate matters and all this stuff. And so I asked Barbio Garbe on Sunday when I was out there, Chris, because I thought this was an interesting. I said, how much, because he used to coach in the minors for the Braves. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, so with fly ball rate and like start hitting the ball in the air more, how much does that matter? And he's like, look, you don't want to groove the swing. And he's like, that will come in time. If somebody has power, they have power, and it'll come in time. That people get so stuck in trying to get the ball stuck in the air, sometimes it messes them up and make them think too much about it.
Yeah, I mean, like, we talked to Campos about his swing years ago, and he said his goal was just to hit the ball hard, and eventually, the fly balls will come, and that's fine. That's what he's doing. Like, he's got plus raw power it's plays down because of his swing, but he's tapping into more power lately. He's gotten 5 or 6 doubles now. He had a chance for the cycle the other day, I think.
Yeah.
He's playing really well. He's playing better in the outfield than we've ever seen him. He's like a viable center fielder in the minor leagues, at least. I don't think you want him playing there a bunch in the majors, but he could fill in there. He's walking more. Like, he's improving a lot as a player, and people need to remember that we talk about this bunch, but he's still not 22. He turns 22 in June. He's 3 weeks older than Lorenzo, I think. Like, they're pretty close in age, and he's right now hitting much better than Lorenzo in the same league, right? So I still don't know if he's more than like a fourth outfielder at the big league level, or but he's a guy that continues to get better, and if and when he does start hitting the ball and pulling it in the air more, he could be really dangerous as a player. So I don't know, he's he's one of the tough ones in the system, right? Because I feel like there's still some decent upside there, but it's ultimately probably going to be an average player at best. But that's
Yeah.
still pretty nice to have, right?
Yeah, look, if he's a 270 hitter with 20 home runs and play a good
Yeah.
outfield, I'm cool with that. Honestly, I'm not going to. If you
I mean,
can get a 260 plus hitter out of that, I know it sounds like I'm trying to be compromising here, but look, Tigers haven't really gotten dick from their international classes. I'm sorry, like I hate to sound so crass about it, but they haven't.
Winslow Perez is like the best they've had homegrown player that they kept
Yeah,
in years.
yeah. I mean, and that's what I'm saying, and that's saying something considering he grew up as being an infielder, now he's an outfielder.
Yeah.
So, look, if you can get anything out of that, that's fine by me. You're starting to see it on the pitching side of things. I love to see it on the positional side of things, positional player side of things. Garrett Burhan, by the way, continues to pitch. There was a rumor, by the way. Let me get back here for a second. Somebody suggested on Twitter that Max Clark is going to Erie based off, I guess, an exchange of hugs or something. What was that all about? Like some.
Yeah, supposedly somebody saw. I don't know, like season ticket holders were invited into the locker room, something like that. Somebody saw Max Clark hugging everybody and assumed that he had been called up to Erie. We heard this from Emily, who was is down there all the time. It's also like they had just hit a walk-off grand slam, so people may have been super excited and happy. There's that. For everything we've heard, right? She contacted people behind the scenes, and nothing is imminent. I'd be surprised if they bumped him up now. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense, right? Like we talked before, like there's another player on West Michigan that we think could probably get moved up right now with no big deal. But yeah, I still think we got like another month or so, if not more, before Clark and McGonigal and maybe Briseño all move up.
Yeah, I don't. Here's the thing. What's the rush? I don't understand the rush. I really don't. I don't really. I know people want him in Erie already. Why? I don't. You don't. What are you going to do? There's literally right now. You look at Toledo's roster right now. They've had essentially, unless you have a big shakeup in Erie or Toledo, I just don't see that happening right now. And they're waiting for bobblehead day to move him up. They were waiting for bobblehead to move him up. There was people lined up out the door for that. I mean, it's. There's also a Tarik Skubal bobblehead coming up in Erie. Just to quickly plug that, coming up in July. But folks, maybe I'm being too I don't know. Like, it's not like being a grumpy asshole, but I just don't. If they're going to win the first half of the season, if they're going to clinch the playoff berth, why don't you just wait till then? What's the rush now? Erie's literally right now in the thick of things, and they are like fighting for their playoff. Well, I don't want to say fighting for their playoff lives, but they're fighting for a playoff spot right now.
Yeah. We talked about it, I think, last week or the week before, that people just want to feel like advancement is happening and things are going, like, moving forward. Like, I don't know, every time we've talked about this forever, right? Like, every time somebody does something, they say, call him up, move him up. They want it to feel like, oh, he's ready for this level. He's ready to move on. And, realistically, Max Clark is not getting to the big leagues this year. Nobody in the system is, right? For the most part, maybe how you league. Yeah. So there's, like your point, like it's better for them to be playing every day. They're still young for the level. He's 20. The average age at the level is 22. And he's still learning stuff. Like, I don't know. I've done enough talking down about Max Clark this year that I don't want to harp on it again. But like, there's still stuff he needs to learn. There's stuff he needs to get a lot better at.
Yeah, I mean, it's just where are you going to put him though? I mean, you have in the outfield right now. I know Bree Allen's on the development list, or the AKA hot ready list. You have Big B, you have Campos, you have Algeri, you have Myers and Anderson and Cruz Cruz that can play the outfield. So again, I just don't understand it. I really don't. And to me, look, the West Michigan's a lot more fun when those two are in the lineup.
Yeah.
And look, getting them in the playoffs. If West Michigan gets in the playoffs, Erie gets in the playoffs, everybody wins. To me, it just says, I don't know.
They value a lot. These guys, these prospects, and these minor leaguers getting postseason experience playing for something that matters. And if keeping them down for another 3 weeks or whatever, I think the end of the first half is usually what, like June 20th or so.
Yeah,
It's like 3 weeks left. It's not going to hurt anything by being down there. So I don't know, but people, people just want. I understand why people in Erie might want to see Max Clark get promoted,
yeah.
right? They want to see him there, and people in other cities, like, they want to feel like he's rising up through the system.
I like what Colin said here. Is whiff rate is extremely low. We need some more power, especially in the gaps. Yeah, and again, just that be nitpicky aside. It's just no. I don't understand the rush. Richard Gurash.
Wash.
He made his debut. He was a former. So a little bit background on him. Right-hander, was with the A's and then the Nationals, and then he bounced around. He was in Double-A and then just disappeared, and then went to the Mexican League, and the Tigers signed him. 96, 97 down the Mexican League. He was hitting 94, 95, I believe, on his debut on Saturday. He had a couple hits, but still the slider, fastball looked pretty good. And he, alongside, there was another indie guy they signed too that went to the Florida Coast League, or Coast League, Complex League.
Yeah, what's this, like Reggio or something like that? Parmesan.
Yeah. Papian Roggio. I'm not sure. Sorry about that. But no, it's just it's a good development. The Tigers continue to find these indie pitchers, and we'll keep an eye on him because, I mean, as far as like Cuban relievers go, Chris and Chris did the homework on this. Tigers haven't had a Cuban reliever in their system since the 70s.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool story, and it's fun that they're going and finding help everywhere. We go back to Patrick Lee last year, or Garrett Pennington, who was an undrafted free agent, stuff like that. But generally speaking, they don't treat these guys as prospects, right? They treat them as kind of mercenaries to help the system. Who knows? Like Wash, maybe they can turn him into something useful at the higher level and maybe even the big leagues. But I'm not necessarily expecting that. I feel like, who else did they get this year? Hayden Irby in that small trade, and
I forgot about Hayden Irby too.
Yeah, they just they're looking for help to keep the rest of their prospects from having to work too much.
Yeah, and there you go. And there's no. It's a cool story, and yeah, we'll keep our eye on that too. And what's that? What I want to do? Let me get back to West Michigan. So. I mentioned earlier, Isaac Pacheco walk-off grand slam, doing pretty well. Here's the guy who wanted to... I did it again. Damn it. I keep doing that today. This is a guy who we would think that would be next, get ready to go up to Erie at some point here soon to see how he would adjust to that level. But Peyton Graham, Chris, showing some power this week.
Yeah, kind of flashing... like, we haven't seen it much, right? But he's kind of flashing the sort of 5-tool potential that people thought he had when they drafted him. He's such a skinny guy. You never really you're like, is there really power there? But yeah, he's hit some home runs. He's hitting some extra base hits. He's controlling the strike zone. He's stealing some bases. It's I'm still a little bit iffy about it all. But it's nice to see a guy like that. He and Pacheco are kind of in the same boat a little bit. Pacheco's younger, so he's got more of a chance. But you hate to see a guy. Was he a second round pick that year?
Yeah,
it just felt like he was just not going to do anything. And we know that they liked him in the system and thought he had potential, but it's just been rough. And this is probably the longest stretch of healthy playing time he's had in a while. So maybe something clicks there. I'm not banking on it, but it's nice to see him perform for at least 1 week. Yeah,
I mean, we got to go see that the build up consistently too. And Patrick Lee, who got called from Lakeland, had a big home run. I think it was Friday night. Was it Friday night?
Yeah, it was in the doubleheader. They were about to get swept in the doubleheader, and he hit the game tying home run. And I think they were down to their final strike. And he tied it, and then they won in extras. Not the only big home run this weekend, for sure.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of them. Brent Callahan lives. That's all I know. Jake, he's been watching reels of Emily. That's all I know. There's not been much of an update from that outside of what I just said. Mm-hmm. But there's no updates on Callahan as of yet. as far as that goes. Now McGonigal doing McGonigal things too. I mean, Kevin McGonigal back in the lineup and just every time. I kid you not, Chris. Every time I went on Twitter, I felt like it was another McGonigal double.
He just so that's we were talking a little bit earlier. Like he and Clark have basically identical contact profiles now, at least in terms of like swing and miss. Clark has really cut his swing and miss down, and it was never high. He's just putting the bat on the ball constantly. The difference is McGonigal just hits the ball hard almost every time. It's crazy, and it's to all fields. He had a ground rule double to right. He had a ground rule double to left. He had, I think, another double to the gap. Like he just hits the ball really hard and doesn't swing and miss a ton. He walked more than he struck out, I think, this week. He's just a really good hitter, and it's nice to have him healthy.
Yeah. And speaking of healthy too, Freddie Pacheco on the comeback trail, pitching rehab in West Michigan, hasn't flashed that stuff we haven't seen as of yet. But Mikael Ashman doing Mikael Ashman things, and Sears, the Jekyll and Hyde starts continue, Chris.
Yeah, I mean that was. I think that start was more about. I'm trying to remember if that was one of the doubleheaders or not, but yeah, he got hit around a little bit, and the defense kind of didn't help, but it's still a solid outing. Only 1 earned run in 3 2/3. Just he's an interesting guy because of. Yeah, I think he hit another batter. He's just a psycho. That's all I can say.
He's got but they did a rival Great Lakes, and they've kept up. They'll build out a 5-game lead heading down to Dayton to take on the Dragons. I feel like didn't they have notice? Did they just go to Dayton?
Yeah, they were in Dayton not that long ago. And, a couple of weeks ago. Then they were in Fort Wayne, and they only play the same 5 or 6 teams. They play teams from the other division once or twice, but yeah. And Dayton's not a terribly good team this year. I think they're like 17 and 18, something like that. That makes sense. Maybe less than that, but yeah, they just keep winning. It's kind of wild. Injured or not, Jack Penny is now on the IL. I don't really know what happened there, but they just find somebody else to play, and they keep contributing.
Colin says, do McGonigal and Clark get promoted together? I think I think they're going to keep the duo together, which is why I don't think that Clark going to Erie right now makes a lot of sense. I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, so be it. But I just, from what we heard, nothing like no one's like, no, I haven't heard anything like that. But yeah, I think they're going to try to keep everybody together too. There's a constant theme with that too, and it goes back to even back in the 70s when a lot of I think more teams do this often, not to try to keep guys together, except for the Angels. So the Angels are like, "Are you good? Good. All right, get the hell up here." So
I think my only question is are they going to send Briseño up with them as well? Because that would be really fun. All 3 of those dudes. But yeah, I think Clark and McGonigal are basically going to hang out with each other forever.
Yeah, I mean the team picture alone last month. That just saying, so.
I think Matt Connor's Twitter profile is a picture of McGonigal.
Yeah. Connor, look, just going to say once and again. I don't think he's going to get promoted. Unless it comes from an official source or him himself, we would have some sort of tip off. And then, again, just because whoever the source is saying because he gave a bunch of hugs to people, if it's because of hugs, then so be. I don't know. I don't. Again, just don't see it. Don't see it happening. And if I'm wrong. I'm wrong. But I just. All right, moving on to Lakeland, and Bryce Rayner having a good week. And that inside park home run clip. I'm gonna pull that up, Chris.
All right.
Because you're updating that anyway. Because. That was a treat. That was a treat for me. That was one of those things where, go ahead, Chris. Set this up a little bit.
Yeah, we actually saw one of these against the Whitecaps not that long ago. Is Rayner? He pulled the ball into the right field, which is always nice to see, right? Because he does a lot of his damage the opposite field, and it got past the right fielder. And then he, it got stuck under the wall, and the right fielder put his arms up. And then, after like 3 or 4 seconds, he put him back down and picked up the ball. And I don't know what the rule is about that. normally when you put your hands up in the air, it's supposed to be a ground rule double, and I don't know if the umpires can see the ball, it might be that it's still in play. I don't know. I don't know what the rule is. It also feels like it could be low A shenanigans, but he never stopped running, and he's pretty fast, so he scored all the way uh, from home in about 15 seconds. He also hit a traditional home run to the opposite field and almost had two more that were just foul over the weekend. Last I looked, his home and road splits are ridiculous. Same with Montilla's. I have to check again. It's relatively small samples, but I think we talked about that, right? Like these young guys, maybe they don't play as well on the road because they're not as used to being away from home.
Yeah. Doesn't Lakeland's dimensions too are very comparable to
Comerica.
Yeah, Comerica. So that's saying something right there.
Yeah, let me look.
Let's see here. I saw Sergio Tapia's 3-run shot. That was
it was his first home run since 2023.
Oh, here it is. I found it. All right, so here we go. And it shows it like it was like a galloping speed there. Somebody was mentioning a speed comp there, and
yeah, well, it's kind of funny because you don't really get to see him run. You see Woody Hadeen running.
Fair into right field. Hadeen around second. He's being waved around third.
Saw his helmet stayed on. That was impressive.
Yeah.
And he will keep on going. There was trouble in the corner. Rayner's going to score. And
yeah, you don't really get to see Rayner run there, but
that won't count as a home run.
He is comfortably above average runner, probably plus or better on underway. Among his many other tools. Yeah, so just one of those weird low A camera angles where we don't like, hey, I'd like to see him run. Nah.
Yeah.
You see him put his arms up.
Yeah.
You see the ball. He's like, hey, and then he picks it up. And then
nope.
Yeah, so I don't know what the rule is there. I feel like
that happened. That happened last week against. Remember the Clearwater announcer when Jackson Strong made the same play.
Yeah. It wasn't. Yeah, so that's exactly the same thing, right? Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe there's a weird rule in the Florida State League, but here you go. Here's Rayner's OPS on the road is 576 so far this year. At home, it's 1126.
Damn.
So yeah, like 550 points higher in the exact same amount of at bats. So I don't know what the deal is there. And like I said, Montilla's is pretty similar. So.
All right. Also to clear this up too, because somebody, of course, there was a comment for everything. So this was the first.
Oh.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, he said he shouldn't have been. Which one is it?
It's Harustich first affiliated home run, not pro ball, because we're the way it was phrased. We're trying to say the other leagues are not pro. It's not.
No, I don't care. It's his first professional home run. Nobody goes, oh, it's my dream to play independent ball. Get out of here. Seriously, like I understand that these guys are playing for, grilled cheese sandwiches in the independent leagues, and they're not amateurs, but that's his first professional home run. All right. He's in a organization, whatever. So.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just funny because and people look for any reason to just be really weird about these things. I don't get it, man. Anyway. All right. But no, and getting back to Lakeland though, as far as just pitching wise too, we were talking about this. I talked about this a little earlier. There's a couple of guys that we were adding up on our list, and one of them I put on there was Moises Rodriguez, who's been pitching better out of the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
And another guy I wanted to mention too is Christian Santana, because we had a discussion in our DMs about where Santana fit him and all this, and his age and what have you. And Chris, I don't think the Tigers are not going to give up on Santana as of yet. But I mean, he hasn't been bad at first base either.
No, it's tough because it's his fourth year in low A. He's still only 22, right? I think he's still relatively young. But he's hitting for a decent average for the first time, right? He's always walked a lot and shown power. Yeah, and he's no longer a second baseman, third baseman. I think he's played a little bit or third baseman. He just kind of grew out all his positions, so now he's playing first base, which obviously puts a ton more pressure on the bat. But he's performing right now, and so we'll take note of it. I don't think, I don't think the organization necessarily thinks that he's one of their best players, their top prospects. But like you said, they gave him a bunch of money, so I don't think they're going to give up on him entirely. They'll keep him around and keep playing him. They don't have a ton of first base options down there, so if he can keep performing, he's going to keep playing.
A breakdown series, by the way. The next video is going to probably be on Jackson Strong, who's off to. I really want to talk about at some point. We want to talk about that. Hickland, sorry, Jake. You asked about Hickland, Brewer Hickland in West Michigan, and I think he
went 0 for 5. I think. Yeah, he was rehabbing down there. I don't know. Yeah, it was weird. They were like at one point he was batting second, and then later in the week he was batting like 7th. It's like, so that's an interesting rehab. He's on the 40-man roster. He doesn't feel like a prospect to me, even though I guess he technically is not. He's still rookie eligible, but isn't he like 29?
Yeah.
I wasn't. I'll be honest with when he was playing in West Michigan, I was like, show me Briseño and McGonigal and Clark. I don't really necessarily care about Brewer Hickland, not to be too mean about it. He does have some tools and it's fun, but he's just another organization's Badu.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's
not to be reductive, but that's how it goes.
Well, in terms of slides, we'll get back. You know what? Slides are like I said,
we did the best we could. I was driving to Pittsburgh.
No, and I got to them the best that I could as well. It was just more. I was so. We had a couple of. It was the first time I had a day off proper in a while between the Tigers game yesterday. It was like the lawn was getting bad and just all this stuff, and so.
Hey, proper.
Yeah, but we'll have the slide again. If you're a Patreon member, the slides will be available after the show, and we'll get those up for you. But in Complex League, Chris, the Tigers have been crushing it. And I was talking to a good friend of ours, John Verberg, before we got out of here, because I do want to talk about the Complex a little bit. But also, there's Lynn Henning wrote a really good article today about, he was doing his prospect update. He was talking about the third baseman, the lack of third baseman the Tigers have produced in the last 40 years. I mean, you have to go back ways. I mean, Travis Fryman, you could talk about Brandon Inge, you could talk about Castellanos, but they don't really have a third base. They've not had a third baseman, like a cornerstone third baseman outside of Travis Fryman. Am I being?
No, you have to go back to like George Kell.
Yeah.
I don't know who played third base. During the '60s, was it was Don Wirt? Did he play third?
Don Wirt? Yeah, Don Wirt played third. Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. I think Fryman was a very good player, but part of his value was also being able to play shortstop. Don Wirt. What are we doing, Wirty? Well, that's the ice falling. No, it's Castellanos played third base, was not good there. Inge was an excellent third baseman. Like, I think a couple years there, he put up like 4+ WAR, maybe even 6 WAR one year, right? Because he was so good defensively and hit home runs.
Yeah,
and I think there were a lot of things about Inge that we would appreciate these days. He walked a lot, he struck out a lot, but he walked and he played good defense and he hit home runs. But there was also a lot of stupid stuff there too that people didn't like. But yeah, like I can't. I don't know. I mean, Miggy played third base a couple times. That was great, but he obviously was not from the system.
Right.
So I don't know. Yeah, and I don't know if there's an obvious third baseman in the system right now. Like Carson Rucker has really struggled this year, but he did have a good week, and he's still hitting the ball really hard. And so I feel like there's something there. I feel like he may be heating up soon, but who knows? He's fighting it right now for sure. But Javier Osorio, speaking of Complex League, he's playing third base now. He's not a shortstop, second baseman. He's a thick kid.
Yeah,
he reminds me of Adinso Reyes, who was kind of Jose De La Cruz's counterpart in that international class. as just a big, strong guy who can hit some home runs for you. And he's off to a great start in the complex league. I'm a little skeptical. I think there's still a lot of swing and miss there, but we'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's just somebody mentioned Aurelio Rodriguez, but they got him they stole him from the Nationals or the Senators at the time. Basically, they traded him. They got him. Let me see. I got this right. Denny McLain was traded. Like, it was a part of the Denny McLain deal in 71, 72, where basically the Tigers got a third baseman for Denny McLain. At that point was done. His arm was toast.
Yeah.
And so I forgot the exact. I think they got Ed Brickman out of that deal too. I think Ed Brickman came out of that deal.
Look right now.
All right, without me looking, let's see how right I was about this. I just want to know.
Denny McLain traded to Ted Williams and the Senators. Let's see. Traded by the Detroit Tigers with Elliot Maddox, Norm McRae, and Don Wirt to the Senators for Ed Brinkman, Joe Coleman, Jim Hannon, and Aurelio Rodriguez.
Okay, so Joe Coleman was the other. Okay, so that was the only the other Coleman and the other name I didn't know. There's the two major names that I can remember, but Joe Coleman.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, he was good. That was a good move by the Tigers picking up Coleman, who ended up for the Tigers winning. He won 23 ball games for him in 73, and he went 20-9. He went better. He was actually better than McLean was, and so.
Yeah, he was an all-star in 72, just looking right here. He pitched 286, 280, 288 innings his first 3 years with the Tigers. 5.2 WAR, 4.4 WAR, 5.7 WAR. That's a heck of a trade.
Yeah, then he had some wild issues too, where he suddenly got wild. He led the league in wild pitches in I think it was 75, 76.
And hit batters 2 years in a row. I'm looking at Baseball Reference right now. It's not like I knew this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the reason why I know about Coleman is because he was one of the first Tiger pitchers that had the yips, apparently. Mm-hmm. Like, that used to be a thing.
Oh, yeah. And his dad played for the Tigers, too.
Yeah. So back in the 40s, I believe, right?
Let's see. Yeah, 40s. He played for the Tigers in 1955. That was his only time with the Tigers.
Oh, okay.
The very end of his career. But
yeah, either way. But as far as the complex goes, Jake wanted to know who would come up when Rayner moves up. I think Jude Warwick, who's a guy who I think is going to be, by the way, is a hint. Oh, Don Wirt was the Tiger of the Day on today's broadcast. Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, they could. Warwick could come up. They could be Dixon. My guess is if they move Rayner up, Montilla will probably just hang around and play shortstop every day. They got Woody Hedin, who can play second, short, and center. That's really valuable. Yeah, they've got some other options. So I think they're going to keep the complex league guys down there. They've got like a handful of infielders that they're moving around, like Dixon and Warwick and Ronald Ramirez and Juan Hernandez are all playing. They're kind of rotating through the second, short, and third. So one of those guys could come up. We'll see. But I don't know. I don't think they're in any particular hurry to push Rayner up either.
Yeah.
He's got fewer than 100 plate appearances, I think, so far in his pro career. Am I wrong? Let's see.
Yeah, I understand why people want the sudden, like, to feel like they're evolving, but to me, it's go ahead.
29 games, 126 plate appearances for Bryce Rayner, hitting 279, 5 home runs, 5 doubles, 7 steals, 18 walks, 29 strikeouts. Like, he's showing some really impressive tools down there. I don't know if his bat is ready for high A. We'll see. Like the pure hitting ability, right? Like, we just don't know yet. It's been 30 games.
Yeah, it's all in due time, folks. And everybody should be excited for the Tigers to have this kind of loaded at the bear kind of system. So, but yeah, I think the next, that would be actually a good side or a next video breakdown, like the Tiger third baseman, past third baseman's. That's bad English. That was bad English, but
yeah, and there is I think Rayner is every bit a shortstop, but there's a chance that he ends up as their third baseman, and he's got the power for it. He certainly has the arm for it, and he would probably be a very good third baseman. So he could be the next one. Could be McGonigal, right? Like we always thought McGonigal's arm was a little light for third base, but then we saw whoa, wait a minute. In the spring breakout, he had a really powerful throw. So I think their next great third baseman may already be in the system.
Yeah, it's going to be a matter. I think the Tigers will finally have one in the next couple of years of a homegrown third baseman, a cornerstone third baseman that can hit for power and average. I think that's going to be happening here shortly. I really believe that. What does that look like yet? I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
all right, well, folks, thank you so much for tuning in this evening. I really appreciate this, and you can find Ashley did a scouting report from Friday. You can find the Max Anderson article over at TigersReport.com. We are working on our list. I got to revamp my list because I forgot a couple guys on there. That it's funny. I was just like, wait, how did I miss out? I put Rodriguez on there, but then I didn't put Yosber Sanchez on there. I just totally slipped my mind. Like, how did I forget that?
Yeah, it's there are a lot of players in the system. Sometimes it's easy to forget about a player or two. That's why we do this. Like we have 6 people contributing this time, so it's going to be basically you have to be on 4 of the 6 lists, which is not a lot different. Like our last one was 2 out of 3, right?
Yeah.
It's just now more people, and so I think we're going to have 39, 40, close to that players, and then like 11 more who made 3 lists. So it's fun. And that'll be coming out pretty soon, and we'll have the articles to go along with it, right? Like the players who just missed, and things like that. So look for all that coming soon.
Yeah, don't worry. I missed him too, Colin.
Yeah.
like I missed him. Same thing. Like I missed him. I somehow I was so engulfed with I've been looking at. So sometimes during the week I'll be totally focused on one team. Like for example, I'll look at Lakeland more often than another team or not, and I'm just like, oh wow, I get like, oh, I see Moises, like I mentioned Moises Rodriguez, it's like 4th time I mentioned him, but or Lucas Elisalt, and look at his stuff, and I'm like, okay, I'm looking at these guys, I'm looking because sometimes I get stuck looking at Erie a lot or the higher levels, but I'm always trying to keep an eye on everything, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, rats, and I forgot so and so, whatever. So, yeah. But thanks so much for listening. And like I said, go to our website, TigersReport.com. All the great content. Go to articles. There should be some West Michigan content coming out here in the next day or so. Keep it closet, everybody. And again, thank you just wanted to thank our veterans for serving this Memorial Day, and hopefully that they take a moment to pause and reflect for what they've done for this country. And we thank you for that. Stay closet, everybody. Have a good night.